On August 6th, 1945, a uranium bomb called Little Boy detonated over the city of Hiroshima. The explosion converted roughly 1 gram of matter into energy. 1 gram. The mass of a paperclip destroyed a city. Now, I'm not here to talk about nuclear weapons. No, I'm here to talk about you. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about matter and energy. You are also made of that. Atoms, particles, quantum fields. And those quantum fields are not static. They are not inert. They are, and I want you to hear this carefully, responsive. In 1935, Erwin Schrödinger, the guy, with the famous cat, he wrote a letter to Einstein describing what he called a curious thing. When two quantum particles interact, they become entangled. They share information across any distance, instantaneously, as though the space between them does not exist. He did not know what to make of this. Neither did Einstein, who called it spooky action at a distance. I like that. And he spent the rest of his life trying to disprove it. He couldn't, because it's real. And here's what I want you to sit with for the next, 35 to 45 minutes. What if the moment you were born, the specific configuration of gravitational fields, electromagnetic radiation, and quantum information that existed at that precise second left a pattern in you? Not symbolically, physically. A pattern that describes how your specific field interacts with the larger field. And what if that pattern, once you can read it, is also a map to the very most powerful version of your life that you can attain? We're going to come back to Schrödinger and his entangled particles at the end of this video. By then, it's going to mean something totally different to you than it does right now. Stay with me. So, welcome to Stellarium. And if you're new here, welcome. But let me give you a quick orientation. First of all, Stellarium is not an astrology channel. Kinda. Well, it's not only an astrology channel, all right? It is a complete philosophical and practical tradition that synthesizes 4 things, really. 4 things. Number 1, Western astrology, which is not what your phone's horoscope app is doing. Number 2, quantum physics, the actual peer-reviewed kind, not the metaphor dressed up as science kind. Number 3, Buddhist non-attachment. Specifically, the specific discipline of wanting completely while holding lightly, okay? And then 4th, identity formation science, and this gets into the neuroscience of things, right? The research on how belief and narrative and practiced identity shape your lived experience in ways that are really measurable and also repeatable. Now, our tradition, my tradition, it rests on 4 pillars. All right. The blueprint, which is your natal chart, your zodiac chart, the most precise available description of your specific energy field in the galaxy. The field, number 2, which is the quantum physical reality around you, right? Which is actively responsive to the signal that you broadcast. 3, the release, which is the Buddhist dimension, right? The practice of wanting something really deeply without becoming attached to the specific form of the outcome. Because attachment energetically, it's noise and it scrambles your signal. And then 4th, the projection, the conscious sort of deliberate somatic inhabitation of the desired reality before it's physically arrived. Not wishful thinking, not visualization in the casual sense. We're talking full body, first person, neurologically encoding a state that the quantum field receives as real. Now, we're going to call the person doing this work the architect. All right. That's you. That's me. That's everyone. And your birth chart, that's your blueprint. All right. It's not a prison. It's not even a prediction. It's a map, guys. The most specific, sort of most precisely calibrated map available to you. Now, let's learn how to read it, shall we? So the Zodiac is really just 12 archetypes, all right? Not personality types in the Myers-Briggs sense, no. Not horoscope column cliches either. 12 fundamental patterns of how energy moves through the field, the quantum field. Now, each sign carries really a specific quantum archetype, all right? Which is like saying a specific way of operating in your reality, a specific set of gifts and shadows. And each one of them has a specific lesson for the architect who carries it, or at least who is trying to work with a partner who does. Now let's start with the planets, because that's really where most people get confused, right? The planets are not little gods flying around making things happen to you. That is nonsense, all right? I know. Look, I know. Some of you were really attached to that explanation, but I'm telling you, it's BS. The planets are massive bodies with real gravitational and electromagnetic influence on the field of our solar system. And we are in that field. We have always been in that field. The moon, it moves the oceans. The sun determines the timing of every biological process in your body. Jupiter's gravitational influence has literally sculpted the asteroid belt. I mean, we are not separate from these forces. We are embedded in them. Now, what astrology does, the real astrology does, not the pop crap, it's mapping how those forces interact with the specific pattern you were imprinted with at the moment of your birth. Let me give you the quick rundown. So, the sun is kind of like your core identity. It's the fundamental sort of operating frequency of who you are. It's not your whole personality. I like to think of the sun sign as like your nucleus, right? Now, the moon is your emotional intelligence, how you process feeling, what you need to feel safe, the part of you that, most people in your life rarely fully see, right? You got to keep part of that for yourself. Now, Mercury is your mind and how it moves, the speed and the style of your thinking, the language your inner narrator uses. Come on now. Venus is your coherent field, what you love, what you find beautiful, what frequency you broadcast when you are at your most genuinely you. Now, Mars is your will, right? How you go after things, where your drive comes from, and what kinds of action your field is built to take, baby. Jupiter, expansion. Where the field is most naturally abundant, where things grow without as much effort, really, because the frequency of that domain, it's already aligned. Now, Saturn is structure, where you build what lasts. Also, and I'll say this directly, where you encounter the most resistance, because Saturn does not give you anything you haven't earned. Saturn is the universe's most honest feedback mechanism. Now, people ask why their Saturn return is so hard. Because Saturn is saying, show me what you've actually built, not what you intended to build, what you built. Moving on. Uranus. Uranus is disruption and innovation, really. The planet that, breaks whatever isn't serving you, so something genuinely new can exist. Now, Neptune, it's the unified field, really. It's where the boundary between you and everything else kind of gets thin, where spiritual experience lives, where delusion lives if you're not doing the work. And Pluto? Pluto is transformation. Complete. Total. No negotiating transformation. The kind that requires something to die before the new thing can live. Pluto is not subtle. Pluto is not interested in your comfort. Pluto is interested in what is real, baby, which is ultimately the kindest thing available. Now, this is where it gets personal. The 12 signs now, right? They organize these pieces into 4 elements. We've got the fire, the earth, the air, the water. And within those elements, really 3 modes, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. The Stellarium practices don't work the same way for everyone because that would make no sense, really, right? I mean, your field has a really specific architecture to it. Now, the practices that we have in Stellarium, they meet you where you actually are. So let's talk about each of the elements, right? What it means, quantum mechanically, if you will, what its specific shadow is in the manifestation work, and what Stellarium does for it that nothing else, no other practice does. So first, you've got the fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and they really carry what the Stellarium canon calls the wave function collapse archetype. Because in quantum physics, the wave function collapse is the decisive moment when a system existing in multiple potential states sort of simultaneously, it is forced by observation, interaction, into a single sort of defined outcome, right? Fire signs do this really naturally. I mean, they commit, baby. They initiate, they ignite, they collapse potential into form with speed and force. The gift is extraordinary. The shadow is the same energy moving without direction. Aries launches before the field is coherent. Leo projects the radiant self, but sometimes forgets to actually be the radiant self underneath the performance. Sagittarius, they see the whole horizon, the whole entire horizon, and occasionally never quite arrive anywhere on it. Yeah. Sagittarius is genuinely the only sign that can turn I'm searching for the truth into a reason to never actually commit to anything. It is what it is. Now, what Stellarium gives fire signs specifically? Number 1, the Stillness Descent. I mean, the most important practice for fire is the hardest practice for fire. Learning to not immediately collapse the wave function, learning to hold potential without forcing it. This is Buddhist non-attachment in its most practical form. I mean, the courage to want completely without translating that wanting into some kind of premature action that just scatters the field. Now, number 2, a gift to my fire signs is the signal audit. Because fire signs project with enormous force. I mean, they need to audit more than really any other element. So the question is, what I'm projecting with all this power actually what I genuinely want, or is it what I want to want? Number 3 is the identity script. Fire signs are natural identity adopters. When an Aries or a Leo or a Sagittarius gets their script, right? The somatic encoding for them happens a lot faster and more powerfully than almost any of the other signs. I mean, the field receives the committed signal. The field responds to the committed signal. For fire, the practice is the pause. Everything else comes naturally. Next, you've got my little earth signs, right? Taurus and Virgo and Capricorn. Earth signs. I mean, they carry quantum coherence in the archetype, right? Quantum coherence is what happens really when a system's waves are perfectly synchronized. Same frequency, same phase, same direction, producing sort of a unified, amplified signal of extraordinary power. These people can be extraordinarily powerful. I want you to think of it like a laser versus a light bulb. A light bulb radiates in all directions, right? Diffuse, scattered. You can look at it. A laser is coherent light, focused, aligned, and it can cut through steel. You don't want to be looking at it. Earth signs, they're the laser. Now, when an earth sign is genuinely aligned, body, emotion, belief, and action all pointing in the same direction, the field responds with almost mechanical reliability because the signal is coherent. But the shadow, earth signs can hold a coherent signal in the wrong frequency for an extraordinary length of time. I mean, Taurus holds the scarcity belief with the same fixed power it holds the abundance belief. Virgo's precision? Virgo can produce a coherent signal of self-criticism which is so sustained and so finely tuned that the field has no room to receive anything else. Capricorn, they can build coherent structures of discipline and control that are genuinely impressive and genuinely preventing anything unexpected, which includes the unexpected good thing they've been working toward. Here's the direct version. Earth signs are the most consistent manifestors on the planet when the field is genuinely aligned. They're also the most consistent manifestors on the planet when it isn't. The field does not evaluate which coherent signal you're sending. It just responds to the signal, baby. Now, what Stellarium gives Earth signs? Number one, we give them the sensory saturation practice. It's the Earth sign's native language. Building the desired reality from physical sensation first, before thought, before analysis, before the Virgo brain starts auditing it. This is how Earth sign bodies access genuine coherent states. We give them the shadow audit because Earth signs carry their counter signals with the same patient tenacity they carry their assets. The shadow audit is the most important regular practice for clearing what the Virgo mind, the Taurus body, and the Capricorn structure have been unconsciously building toward. And then finally, we give them the sovereign release. The Buddhist dimension of the tradition is the most important for Earth signs because Earth holds on. This is a gift. It is also the source of the most persistent blocks, especially for the Earth signs. The release practice really teaches what no Earth sign really naturally wants to learn, which is the specific discipline of letting go without stopping the work. So for Earth, the practice is the update. The coherence is already there. The question is whether the frequency is actually current. You don't want to be operating on some old script. Now, what about my air signs, my favorite, because I am one? Yes, I'm a Gemini. If you haven't noticed already, I guess this might have given it away. Uh-oh. So air signs, you've got Gemini, you've got the Libra, you've got Aquarius, and they carry what the canon calls really quantum superposition archetype. Superposition is the ability to exist really in multiple states simultaneously. The particle is here and there, right? The electron has spin up and spin down until something forces a choice. I mean, air signs live here. Gemini synthesizes multiple perspectives simultaneously and genuinely holds all of them at once. Libra perceives both sides of every dynamic with such precision that choosing one can feel like a kind of violence. Aquarius, they see the entire systemic field at once, every variable, every possible recombination, which is why Aquarians are generally brilliant and also occasionally everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The superposition gift, it is extraordinary for the air signs. The superposition shadow is the failure to collapse. In quantum mechanics, superposition is necessary, right? But at some point, the measurement happens. The state collapses. A reality is chosen, right? Now, air signs need help with the collapse. And what Stellarium gives air signs, we give them the identity script. It's the most important air sign tool because it does the one thing air resists. It commits to a specific identity. One thing, present tense, out loud, not I contain multitudes, which is true, and also not practice, but I am this. We give them the consolidation practice, narrowing from the superposition of infinite possibilities to a single quantum intention. One, just one, because for the air sign who is genuinely comfortable with 47, I mean, this is a real discipline for them. And then lastly, we give them the narrative architecture as well. Because Gemini and Aquarius in particular they're natural story architects. When you channel the superposition gift into a single story and you hold it for 7 consecutive days, the field receives it with a precision that the scattered across many directions version, it can't produce. Now, for air, the practice is the choice. Their perception is already extraordinary. The field, it needs to know what you're doing with it. And finally, my little babies, the water signs. Cancer, I love you guys. Scorpio, Pisces, sorry. You guys carry the quantum entanglement archetype. Look, entanglement means this. Two particles interact, becoming entangled, and therefore share information simultaneously, regardless of the distance between them. I mean, this is an amazing concept. A change in one is immediately correlated with a change in the other. I mean, they are, in a meaningful physical sense, they're no longer fully separate systems. Now, water signs are the most genuinely entangled signs in the entire zodiac. I mean, Cancer feels the emotional states of those it loves across any distance without any explicit communication. Scorpio, they perceive the psychological truth of any situation beneath whatever is being presented on the surface. And Pisces, they experience the boundary between self and field as genuinely physically permeable. I mean, this is the most extraordinary receptive intelligence available in the zodiac. It's also the most intense manifestation liability, unfortunately. Because if you are entangled with the emotional fields of everyone around you, you are not broadcasting your own signal. You are broadcasting theirs, mixed with yours, in a ratio that is nearly impossible to track without specific, deliberate practice. Water signs aren't manifesting their desired reality nearly as often as they think they are. I mean, this group thinks they're doing a lot and they're doing very little, unfortunately, because they are manifesting the average of the emotional fields that they are entangled with. This is why the water sign, who is in the wrong environment, feels genuinely physically ill. And why the water sign who does the inner work and clears the entanglement suddenly finds the field responding to them personally with a clarity and a speed that surprises even them. Because for the first time, the field is actually receiving their signal, not everyone else's, mixed with their signal. Now, what does Stellarium give you guys? We give you the entanglement audit, the most important regular practice for all three water signs, non-negotiable. A systematic mapping of what emotional states are genuinely theirs versus what has been absorbed from the field. Clear the borrowed frequencies, find the genuine signal, work from there. Now, the inner home practice is number 2, the generation of genuine internal safety as a somatic anchor that is independent from the external conditions. I mean, Cancer in particular will recognize this. The shell is not the inner home. The shell is the protection when the inner home doesn't exist. The practice builds the inner home so the shell can be a choice, not a reflex. And then finally, we give the water signs the sovereign release with specific Cancer and Pisces modification. The release of absorbed emotional states, really, that aren't yours, right? Releasing the feeling of others that have taken up residence in your field. Now, for water, the practice is the return to self. The receptivity is already astonishing, guys. I mean, you guys contain that better than anyone. The question is whether what's being received, it's actually yours, not someone else's. Now, let's get to the houses, because this is where most astrology content really gets it wrong. I'm sorry to anyone else out there that's doing this stuff, but I want to make sure that we do this right. The houses are not just areas of life. That is not what they are. They are not a filing system, and stop treating them that way. In the Stellarium framework, each house is 3 things simultaneously. A field of manifestation, the specific domain of your physical life where the architect signal produces outcomes. 2, a quantum observation zone, which is the specific dimension of reality that this house's energy is designed to observe. And through observation, participate in creating. And finally, a construction site, the specific place where the deliberate, disciplined work of the architect actually builds something that lasts forever. or as long as you want it to. Now, let me give you the ones that matter most for understanding your blueprint, all right? Because they're not all the same and they don't all carry the same weight. But the first house, this is who you are as a signal. It is your body. It is your first impression, the instinctive presence. Now, in quantum terms, the first house is you as the measuring apparatus. What you observe in the field is determined by the quality of the instrument doing the observing. If your first house identity is running on an old inherited program, a mask that forgot it was a mask, you're observing the field through a contaminated lens. Building in the first house means this. You choose the physical presence and the instinctive identity of a person that you are becoming, not the person you were conditioned to be. Okay? Now, the second house is the self-worth field. Yeah. I'm going to say something that will land a little bit differently depending on which element you are. The field does not respond to your desire for money. Sorry. It responds to your genuine body level conviction about whether you deserve money. These are not the same thing. Most people learn this the hard way. The second house is the most commonly contaminated quantum observation zone in your chart. The signal audit applied to this house weekly, without exception, is the tradition's most reliably impactful regular practice. And then you've got the fourth house, which is your foundation, the deepest private bedrock from which all manifestation works. I mean, in quantum terms, the fourth house is your 0-point field, the ground state, really, from which all possibility emerges. If the foundation is built on inherited fear, the entire chart manifests from fear. Build the inner home. Everything changes. Now, next, let's hit the seventh house. The mirror. What you attract in relationship is the most precise available reading of your current field signal. Not what you want in a partner, what your field really is broadcasting out, right? The seventh house, it's the tradition's most honest feedback mechanism, even more honest than Saturn. Actually, Saturn and the seventh house are tied. Now, the 10th house, that's next, the visible construction zone, right? What you build in public, your career, your legacy, right? The thing that outlasts the moment. The 10th house construction site requires something that quantum fields don't grant on belief alone. Time. Patient, Saturn-governed, show your work, time. The astral projection, right, directed at the 10th house, projecting the desired public reality from the inside in the hypnagogic state is among the most powerful available tools for really accelerating this house's field response. And then lastly, we'll go over the 12th house, the unified field. This is what exists in your chart below conscious awareness. It's your spiritual dimension, the unconscious signal, the place really where Pisces lives, right? And where Neptune operates. Now, the 12th house is part of your field that is really broadcast even when you're sleeping. What is in your 12th house? It's in your signal at all times. And this is why working consciously with the 12th house, through the ocean and the wave practice or through the Stillness Descent, really directed inward, it can't be supplementary work. It is necessary. It's really the deepest available layer of field calibration or recalibration. Now, let me say the thing that most spiritual content is too polished to say. Most people who are into astrology are using it to feel understood. And that's fine. That's genuinely fine. Do what you need to do for you, baby doll. Feeling understood is not nothing. But there is a version of this, and I've seen it hundreds of times, where the astrology becomes the reason to not do anything. Oh, I'm a Taurus. I'm just fixed. Right? Oh, I'm Scorpio. I'm just intense. Ooh, I'm a Pisces. I'm dreamy and sad all the time. Guys, that is not the tradition. That is a complete bastardization of astrology. I mean, your sign describes the energy The energy isn't good or bad. It's not fixed as fate. It is a pattern. The same energy that can move in two fundamentally different directions, with the architect's conscious direction or without it. And the difference between those two directions is not talent. It's not luck. It's not which sign you were born under. It is whether you are doing the practice, not reading about the practice, not listening to podcasts about the practice, although not following people who talk about the practice, doing it. Because, ladies, gents, the quantum field does not update based on information that you consumed. It updates based on the genuine somatic body level signal you are broadcasting from a practiced identity. Now, here is the specific shadow for each elemental group. And I want you to notice if this is one of yours. So fire shadow, using enthusiasm as a substitute for follow through. The practice of beginning is genuinely easy for fire. The practice of continuing, that's your work. Now, earth, your shadow is using patience as a substitute for change. I'm taking my time can be, I'm not doing the uncomfortable thing. I mean, the field can tell the difference, even if you can't. Air signs, your shadow, using understanding as a substitute for experience. Knowing about the practice is not the practice. I cannot overstate this. Air signs are extraordinarily good at understanding things they have not done. The field is not impressed by understanding. The field responds to practice, the practice signal. Now, water, using feeling as a substitute for choosing. I'm waiting to feel ready. I mean, water signs, I say this with genuine care. You are not going to feel ready first. You feel after you do the thing. The readiness is the result of the action, not the precondition of it. This is not criticism, guys. This is the map. The shadow is not who you are. It is the pattern that runs when you're not in the driver's seat. Get in the driver's seat with practice. And it doesn't have to be perfect practice. As I've mentioned in the other episodes, we believe in Stellarium that imperfect practice over, 3 or 4 weeks is much better than waiting until you have the perfect practice to practice. Guys, the tradition, it has 18 canonical practices, and I'm going to give you the essential stack today. The ones that together produce the most reliable field movement, really for any architect at any level. So every morning before you engage with the external world, I want you to do the Stillness Descent, practice 1, 15 minutes, seated, not emptying the mind, not a war with your thoughts, an observation of the field as it actually is right now, without narrating it, without judging it. The quantum instruction, hold the system in observation without collapsing it into a conclusion. Practice 2, vibrational attunement. 15 minutes, building the genuine emotional state of the desired identity in the body, not imagining feeling good, actually feeling it from the heart center outward. Rose quartz held at the sternum, right? The field distinction that matters here, generated versus performative. If the state is performed, the field knows. It responds to genuine article only. Now, practice 3, we have the identity script. 10 minutes, written, read aloud in present tense. First person. I am the architect who blank. Not I will be. Not I want to be. I am. And then, and this is the part that most people skip, you sit quietly for 3 or 4 minutes after reading it and you let the body feel what it would feel like if you were already there, if it were already true. You don't think about it, you feel it. The field receives the felt state, not the narrated state, the felt state. Now, on a weekly basis, you can do the signal audit. 20 minutes of honest internal questioning. What does my body actually believe about whether the thing I'm projecting toward is actually available to me? Open or contract? That's the whole audit. Does the body open toward it or does it contract from it? I mean, if it contracts, that contraction is the field signal you're broadcasting, not the desire. the contraction underneath the desire. The signal audit is meant to find it, right? The shadow audit unpacks it, and then the sovereign releases the grip on it. Now, these three are the tradition's most reliable sequence for clearing out the counter signals. And then monthly on the new moon, you can try the expansion rite. Full ceremony, setting intention for the lunar cycle, aligning the signal with the field's natural monthly intensification window. The new moon is not a metaphor, guys. The gravitational conditions are measurably different. The field is in a state of increased receptivity. Working with that is not superstition. It's intelligent timing. Now, we started with Schrödinger, right? The physicist who discovered that two quantum particles, once entangled, share information instantaneously, even across any distance, as though, the space between them doesn't even exist. I said we'd come back to that. And here's what I want you to understand now. All right. You have been entangled since the moment of your birth with the specific quantum configuration of the solar system at that moment. Not poetically, physically. The gravitational fields, the electromagnetic fields, the specific arrangement of mass and energy in the system you were born into, it left a pattern. And that pattern, the natal chart, is the most precise available description of how you are entangled. Which dimensions of the field respond to your specific signal? Which planets govern which domains of your specific life? Which elements carry which gifts and which shadows in your specific field architecture? But here's what Schrödinger did not say, and what the tradition does. Entanglement is not static. The information shared between entangled particles is not predetermined. It is determined in real time by the state of the system being observed, which means the field you are entangled with is not broadcasting a fixed reality at you. It is broadcasting possibilities and responding in real time to the signal you're sending back. The quantum field is not doing something to you, it's listening to you. And what it hears, what it has always heard, is not your desires. It hears your genuine, body-level, practiced identity. The one that broadcasts even when you're not paying attention. The one that the signal audit finds, the one that the practice builds and rebuilds. That's the blueprint. That's the field. And that's the work. The blueprint is real. The field, it's responsive. The architect is awake. Now look, if you want to go deeper, if you want the full Stellarium practice manuals, the Zodiac canon, the houses canon, the complete 18 practices, we've got all of this stuff. Go ahead and look for my email in the description and then send me an email and I'll let you know how you can get these things. If you know your rising sign, your sun, your moon, and you want to understand which practices your specific chart needs most, drop it in the comments. I'll read it. Next episode, we're going into Saturn. And listen, not because it's fun. Saturn is not fun, but because Saturn is the most honest planet in the tradition. And right now, in this specific astrological weather, what Saturn is asking of you is the most important available information. See you there. And if this hit, make sure you subscribe. We are building one follower at a time in a tradition that actually utilizes the astrological chart instead of just thinking about it. See ya.